So what we are doing now, being they don't want to release the original promissory note because they don't have it, is I'm asking for an original auto loan application as well as their W-9 for the bank. Now they're saying they might not be able to provide a W-9, which is interesting. But we know that CINFIN and the SEC would be very, very intrigued by a woman not being able to have her receipt and cheeseburger after placing an order and paying for it. So I'm just looking for these instruments that, the vice president alleged he had. Now, he said he couldn't give them to her because they hold the originals. Well, the original issuer has satisfied the loan or the alleged debt, and thus the property, which is not the automobile, but rather the promissory note, he is unwilling to relinquish. So here we have an original loan application.
So here's our consumer loan application.
It's normally printed on 8.5 by 14-inch white paper. It's a long form. Do you guys?
That's what we do. We just do ours front and back.
Right. Can I have one of those? I want the long form. There's a reason for this, because see, when you pay off your note, the original promissory note is the thing of value. Okay, it's not the automobile. It's not the physical possession. In the banking industry, it's actually the paper. And so that original instrument that was used to generate the loan has QSIP numbers on it, along with a number of other things that the bank monetizes and or shreds and then sends to other banks, and they buy into it, right? They turn it into a security. Okay. So what she wants is her cheeseburger. She paid for the cheeseburger. She's got receipts showing that she's paid for a cheeseburger, but she don't have her cheeseburger. Okay. The cheeseburger is a promissory note. It's her intellectual property. And the reason it's so important to have that piece of property is, one, she's the original issuer of the credit, which allowed the bank to go ahead and monetize that and lend 10 times what the credit on account she created actually is. So when they monetize it and they begin to sell those things, those instruments, she has a proprietary interest in said instrument. Now, if this bank sold that instrument and she has satisfied the loan, which she does have the letters of satisfaction of loan, and somebody else holds that instrument, now they're the holder in due course. At any time, they can go into a court with that original promissory note and say, this woman here owes me X amount for this reason. I'm the holder in due course of this instrument. And then she would be forced to pay. So she wants her promissory note to ensure that she is now the holder in due course. More than likely on the back of it, it's been medallion stamped by the bank before it was turned into securities. And then the banks then took interest in it and bundled it up as securities and started monetizing it and profiting from it. She's not here to collect any of that interest or anything else like that. She just wants to make sure nobody ever comes after her saying that they owe her, a significant amount.
And I know this has been, I don't know when it switched, before my time, is when they stopped sending these because the originals, because people didn't care for them.
Well,
so
I'm telling you, she cares about her property.
That's fine.
She brought me down here because I'm extremely learned in this process, and I really don't want to have to get a hold of CINFIN and the SEC and the IRS.
No, that's... but
you didn't. The problem is the originals weren't there. What he gave us earlier, just scanned copies. They're not the originals.
We scan them into our system.
Right.
So we stamp them scanned so we know that they are in our system. These are the originals. We just get them scanned.
Where's the original 8 by 14 inch paper?
It depends on our system.
Okay, but the original 8 by 14 paper that has a carbon copy attached to it, that has all that stuff, that's how bankers do business. We don't just issue one piece of paper in the banking world. We do a bundled package that has a carbon copy with it, okay? The original note has the wet ink signature on it. It is on 8.5 by 14 inch legal paperwork.
It depends
and that's the instrument we want.
It depends on our systems at what print.
I don't care about the prints. I'm talking about the original document.
These are the original.
By the way, the amount is.
Robin, did you sign papers like this, or was it an 8.5 by
She has
14
a copy
inch?
when we sign the docs. She has an original copy that we give them that day.
That's a carbon copy.
It's still the original. It's exactly
It's
what
not
this
an
is.
original. We want the original, ma'am. Can you help us with that or not?
These are the original.
It's not an original.
They aren't.
Okay, where's the sign tab that's on that documentation? I mean, it's been
We
been
mailed
photocopied.
these.
Good morning,
Good morning. How are you, Derek?
Brad.
Brad, nice to meet you, partner. We're looking for the original documents, the original promissory notes. These are all copies. They're not the original promissory notes. And so, and to prove that, I mean, this copy here clearly has tabs on it that says sign here. If it was the original, those tabs would still
If we
be
got
there.
originals, we'll get you the originals.
We would like those, okay? I don't want to have to go through CINFIN. I don't want to have to go through the SEC. I don't want to have to go through the
I'm
IRS.
gonna go, the SEC has no authority over us. We're
Okay.
not publicly traded.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, okay, my question here is, she ordered
We'll
it.
get you these originals.
You will
okay?
definitely get us the originals. You still have the
If
originals.
we
You haven't
have the
sold them.
originals, we haven't sold anything. We don't
okay.
securitize any notes. We don't, all the stuff you're referring to.
Okay, so I got a question. If they haven't been monetized, there'll be no QSIP number attached to them at all.
That's correct.
Okay, so when I go through a brokerage firm and I use her information with the corresponding numbers here, we won't find any securitization, any instruments created off that.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you should then have in-house in the vault her original promissory note with a wet ink signature, and the reason she wants it is
If she has if we have original signature, we'll get it to you.
okay. We just want the original promissory note. I understand what the holder in due course
If
is.
we haven't, we've probably shredded it or
Well,
gotten
shredded
rid of it.
shredded in the banking world means it was securitized. Nothing's shredded in a banking institution.
Oh, we know the banking world.
Okay.
So if we have the original, we'll get them to you.
Those definitely aren't the originals because they're copies, and I can prove it to you right now. I mean, I can show you the fact. It says, first of all, it says copies on them. Second of all, there's all kinds of instruments that are placed on it that have been scanned.
We mailed the originals out and kept a copy in the file.
I don't have those original documents. They would have been mailed to 1400 West Main Street in Sargent, and they were not.
And the original documents wouldn't have been a carbon copy. They would have been a wet ink signature. That's what we're after. That's what we're after.
What I'm telling you is that at that time, we probably were still mailing out the copies or the originals to the borrower.
Uh-huh.
Keeping copies in the file. We changed that practice, so you got the letter of
This is the one.
See, the problem is people abandon the original property because they don't realize how the banking system truly works. After 1913 and the Act of
I don't think
1933,
you understand how our banking system really works.
I can't wait to figure it out. It won't take me
Because
long.
we don't securitize any of these notes. We don't sell them in the secondary market. We don't, there's gonna be no QSIP tied to any of these.
Okay, so in the event that has not transpired, it should be pretty easy to go in the vault and grab the original note. I mean, how do you ascertain copies if you don't have the original?
If we have the original, we will get you the
Can
original.
I ask
Okay, and if
when?
we don't have the original, where would the original be held?
probably mailed to whatever address was on file for that.
But probably is proverbial. Probably means it may have or may not have been. It's like I probably ate that cookie, but then again, I don't really remember. Probably is an unacceptable, deficient answer. I mean, it lends to ignorance. You either have said property or you don't have said property. Which is it? We're looking for the original note. She should be rightfully the holder in due
Original
course.
note, we'll provide it. And like Paul mentioned, if we don't, it was mailed.
And you're willing to testify under oath about
For
that?
what?
Oh,
For
what are
what
you
purpose?
bringing in?
What are you doing?
Well, I'm just trying to ascertain her property,
You
gentlemen.
have
I
The
think
car-
we're at the point, we'll get our attorney and we can deal through that.
Okay, well, I'm just curious because, I mean,
So
I don't see what the
what's the goal here for you?
The goal is to get her back her property. She's
She
the
has the
original
property.
issuer of the credit, gentlemen.
She
No,
has
we're
the
the issuer
property.
of the credit.
You're the issuer of the credit,
Did we
okay?
not extend credit to her?
But you know,
So we issued the credit. Did she issue us credit, or
Yes,
did
she
we
did.
issue
When
her?
she signed that promissory note, she created the credit from her own estate. After 1933, gentlemen, banks are insolvent, my friend. They're insolvent. They issue FRN notes. They don't issue anything.
You're out of your element.
This conversation is done.
Okay,
We'll get
if you
in
guys
touch with our attorney.
issue credit, I'm curious. If you were the original issuer of the credit, then how does fractional reserve lending work? If you don't need our signature, then technically you just create out of thin air, right?
Do you need money?
No, I
Sign
don't.
a document that says I will repay under these terms.
Of course I
Do you
need money,
understand
but the
that's how
bank doesn't.
banking works?
The bank doesn't lend gold and silver, and they haven't. They never have. So I'm just curious why there would be an issue of handing her back an original document with her wedding signature on it. That's all. It's just a question.
This is probably the fourth or fifth time I've said this.
Okay.
If we have the wet signature, we will gladly provide
We
it.
would love that.
If we don't, then it was mailed out. That would be the two options that we've got here.
So you wouldn't mail something that has value via certified or registered mail where somebody would have to sign for it? I mean, the original promissory note can be monetized multiple times. It could be sold as securities. It could be attached and affixed to
We
QSIP
can
number.
prove that the note was paid and satisfied in full. That's it. That's
you,
done.
Larry?
Whatever you do with those from here on, that's your business. Whether it's
And that
original or a copy,
contract's
it doesn't
done,
matter.
it's over.
We understand the contract's over. That's why we want the original promissory note, because she's the holder in due course, technically, right? I mean, if you order a cheeseburger and you get a receipt, but you don't get the cheeseburger, don't you want the cheeseburger?
Well,
Did you get the title back?
we know you're sitting there recording this.
I absolutely am,
keeping-
for-
keeping all the information, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the
This
same as...
conversation's over. If we have the wet signature papers, we will get them to you.
Okay,
If we
can we
don't,
get an
then
estimated,
it's-
can we get an estimated time on when you think you'll have those documents and when you can get them to us?
I pulled everything, Brad. I said everything that's been paid off, I gave them copies of.
Okay, so,
Well, wait a minute. You say they're copies, but they're telling me these are originals. I'm confused now.
I
I'm
have
perplexed.
the copies in here that we just took. I have
Okay.
the copies,
Okay,
and you guys have the originals.
but those copies seem to have blue wet ink signatures on them, like this.
Okay, that's a modification.
Okay, that's a modification of the loan. Got it. Okay, what's the other file then? And I don't mean to make a stink. I'm intrigued by this whole. I'm intrigued by this whole situation here. So, I mean, banking.
And I don't even have the
Banking is a friend. Not that I have to answer that, but a very close friend, somebody I care dearly for. And so when I started studying UCC and all this banking instruments and things of that nature, and I started studying the true history of what transpires in banking, it enamored me that many people abandon their property after they create it. So I'm absolutely fascinated by it. The fact that a bank that's technically insolvent, the Federal Reserve, first of all, is privately owned, and the fact that they can just generate ones and zeros on a computer and poof, automatically there's all of a sudden this mystical thing called money, which is really credit on account. That credit on account can only be created by we the people who are in fact the creditor after 1933, when we were forced to give up our gold and silver for these frivolous things called FRN notes, which are really instruments of debt. When we look at Franklin D. Roosevelt's inaugural speech, and he said you can't pay a debt with a debt, so thus the alleged government had to come up with a resolution for the people, otherwise it was fraud. So there is remedy here. Otherwise, you could go after people for fraud all day long in the banking world. But because they provided remedy through House Joint Resolution 192, it's very clear that there's effective course of action you can take. That's why when so often people come after bankers to sue them, it's dismissed for a claim being filed for which there can be no relief granted, because there is remedy if you know the law. So why I'm so intrigued by this process is the original promissory note is what created the credits on account and the value. And so because of that, she has proprietary interest in holding that and being the holder in due course to ensure that nobody else can ever come after her saying, hey, I have this note, I hold it, I am the holder in due course, and I would like my money.
Why
Right?
does this one say promissory note and then this one in disclosure, and these are all different?
Well, see, what they do is they create security agreements and stuff with you. I mean, you'll notice in here there's a bunch of security agreements, if you default, if you this, if you that, and it's contract law. And so, what they're doing isn't necessarily illegal or unlawful, but I just helped a gentleman get his promissory note back in York who paid off his house. And in fact, on the back of it was
Why is-
medallion stamped, and it was issued to pay to the order of the gentleman, which is very impressive. Now, he's at a standstill. He doesn't want to go any further. He sees that what I'm doing is correct, but on the other hand, he's nervous about it.
Why is this one on legal paper and these are on 8x10s? Can I ask?
Different loan software.
Can you give me, if it's not too much of a hassle, can you give me an original auto loan application? Just an
Is
original
that
one.
it, Paul?
I want one that has a carbon copy attached to it and everything. Can you give me that? Something that,
Copy of what?
well, something that would legitimately have the carbon copy on the 8x14 legal documentation, what I would actually fill out to finalize a loan. Can you provide me a copy of that? You and I both know that's not how that
This
works.
gentleman wants to speak to us.
Sure.
Hi there.
Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm Jason White.
Name's
I'm the
Eric.
bank's attorney here. So,
I've
what's
met
up?
you a time or two.
You need some wet signatures, is what I hear.
Well, I'd like to have. She'd
So
like to have the
I'm-
original
I'm-
promissory note.
That's
back.
a loan application.
Oh.
So all I'm asking for,
These loans have been paid for.
right, my
Right.
loans have been paid for, and I'm asking for the original 8.5 by 14-inch paper that I signed. Because here, right here, in these ones right here, you can see that the sign here
Probably sign
tabs.
those on 8.5 by 14, or did you absolutely sign them on it?
So what we're looking for
Do
is
you
the original
see it?
promissory notes, and the reason for it is the way the banking system works. She ordered a cheeseburger. She got a receipt for the cheeseburger, but she hasn't got the cheeseburger. The cheeseburger is the original note. And why she wants the original note is because she would like to be the holder in due course of it. I mean, she fulfilled and satisfied the loan. They used the promissory note to monetize it, where they fractionally reserve and lend, which
you
is
have to have a
fine.
promissory note behind a deed of trust.
Absolutely.
No worries there.
I'm
So-
asking, see this sign here tab? That is a tab, it sticks. I'd
saying
like to
this is
have the
the
document
originals.
with the sign here tab on it, please. And they keep saying that they mailed it to me and I didn't get it. If it was mailed, I would have it. I know that because I have a lady at the house who calls me and gives me my mail when I'm not there. I don't have it. And all I'm asking
The
for,
original did get mailed.
that's what they
We
keep
don't
saying.
have- If we don't have the original
I
here,
don't-
it's mailed.
Okay.
That's
If
all
they
I'm
mailed it-
asking for.
And their notes, I'm sure, say that they mailed it. If it didn't go through the mails, that's one thing too. But
Is it
So my
standard
loan
practice
papers
to
are just
mail
out?
something of value without
Absolutely.
sending it
Yeah.
registered or certified where somebody
Absolutely.
would sign for it?
yep. Supposedly,
So,
we're
if it
supposed to be
didn't-
able to rely upon the U.S. mails for that stuff to get there. But
Right. Well, you're not going to get anywhere here, Robin. I'm going to tell you that right now. Why we want the original promissory note, obviously you already know you're articulate, you're intelligent, very learned. So I'm not going to sit here and question your intelligence, and I don't suspect you'll sit here and question mine. But she would like that. So if you guys could do some due diligence and find that original promissory note, because she is the holder of the course. She's the original issuer of the credit, and we would like to do some things with that through 1040Vs, 1041s,
And the
1099
1099
OIDs,
OID.
and a number of other processes to reclaim, because all debts are obligations of the United States after 1933. And through House Joint Resolution, it's very clear what's happening and transpiring with the banking. She's here to bring down the national debt, not add to it and incur more suffering upon the people. So she's here to get her original issue of credit back and to take care of business. She's fulfilled the obligation with them through the security agreement to pay back an alleged
Okay.
loan, which they took her promissory note, monetized, and turned around
We
and
did
put.
not monetize that, no.
I'm just
said
speaking.
that.
I don't even know what you're referring to when you say you monetize it. What is your definition of monetizing it?
Well, quite simply, they securitize these documents, fix QSIP number to them, and they're bundled as part of securities packages and sold.
That's incorrect. That's absolutely
But-
Okay, if you don't
Do
sell
we
them, then you
have
have the
our
original
contact info now?
documents.
You got?
Yes.
Do you have
You
given
have
them
my
the contact?
phone number.
Okay. Do we have an address?
Yes, you do. 1400 West Main Street in Sargent.
So
appreciate that.
I'm assuming they've looked. If they've said they've sent it to you, but
I travel for
We'll
a
look for
living.
the
I'm an
original.
independent
I
contractor.
appreciate
but if the
that.
original
Travel
got
all
sent in the
over
mail and
nation.
it never made it to your address, there's not much more that can be done.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I do have somebody who
I mean,
does
these
look
guys
at-
aren't looking to.
We're not
Give
looking.
you grief or
We're not
anything
looking for
like
any
that.
grief
No, I
either. We just.
that's all I want is my
Yep.
phone saying that.
I understand.
When
But
you start to
you
study
understand
these-
what I'm saying? If it got sent out to the mail and you didn't receive it, there's nothing more these guys can do.
Okay.
So, okay.
You would just think it would be common practice to call somebody in and say, "Hey, here's your original note back."
Now,
you don't think you would send
here's a
something of
question.
value?
There's
to the
there's
mail?
hundreds of those that people never come get their original note because
Right,
the note's
because-
not good any afterwards.
because
once
they
you
don't
pay it.
know any better and they abandon their property.
Here's a.
Well,
I have
okay. I understand what
Here's
you're
a
right.
question I have. So I just paid off the loan last month.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain amount of time before it's released, and maybe it just hasn't been mailed out? I
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm assuming.
Okay.
I mean, because the original document, from what these guys are saying, you make a very valid point about that. You would never send the original prior to the note being fulfilled. That would be absolute asinine, because then I could take you to court and say, well, I'm the holder in due course, and you don't have the original. What ground do you have to stand on? So where is the original, gentlemen? And with that, we're going to depart.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
Jason.
it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Get some sleep.
No, we love crooked bankers. Love them. All right.
So
I gotta get back to work.
that was my question: is why are these on 8x10?
They tell you.
This is on legal.
They tell you that's the original. Then they sit there.
It's a copy,
and
but
it's
it
on-
doesn't have the sign here tab.
It's not about the sign here tabs. It's about the wet ink signature. Robin, who cares about the sign ink tabs? You can pull those
No,
off.
but that's how I can tell that it's a copy.
Well, no. Look, this is how you can tell it's a copy. There's no wet ink signatures on this at all. See that? Those should be in blue, not in black. Okay, these sign here tabs don't mean a flipping
I know
thing.
they don't mean anything.
Because they're
how
filled
I
up.
can tell that it's a copy.
Right, but see, you can sign the originals and I can pull the sign here tabs off. They're removable. So the sign here tabs, don't pay attention to that. What you need to be paying attention to is the wet ink signature. Now, you made a very valid point in there, and I was proud of you about it. When you said, wait a minute, why would you mail me the originals before I paid off the note?
Right.
Because now you can't prove that you're the holder in due course, other than the securities agreements. But at the same time, they're not going to release your promissory note like that. They're just not going to do it. So, very interesting. Had a lot of fun with this one, guys. We're not done with it. Thanks for paying attention. Unfortunately, I have to get back to work. I have some obligations. But peace, love, light, and happiness, guys. Ruffled some feathers there, so much so that they actually went across the street to get their attorney. And he knows what we're talking about. He's not stupid. So, with that said, we're open to suggestions. We are open to anybody who's learned in these processes that wants to private message me or whatever. I understand people wanting to be private, and I get that. So if you have any insight to offer, please don't hesitate. Post the comments. And remember, freedom isn't free, ladies and gentlemen. And he who sacrifices freedom for safety shall have neither. So get in there, get to studying, hit the books hard, and always remember to ask questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you found this video, if nothing else, entertaining.